let's start this baby.
Welcome to Women Talking Tech.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to
I'd
the
be worried
Schizophrenic
about
Show. Hey, this is the Bunker Project, and we've got a sponsor. What are those guys? Our sponsor? We used to be
Okanagan
Wix's.
Spring.
Thank you.
Black beer.
Yeah. It's going to be a bit of a free-for-all today because my co-host isn't here, so I'm going to be managing everything. And I didn't have any show notes just to make it even more fun and interesting. We never use the show notes anyways, or the stuff we bring up in the show notes.
You never tell us what they are anyway.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true. Well, you guys want to study so you sound intelligent and stuff?
We do that. We do that for our show.
Oh, just so kind. So kind.
But
All right. Tell you what, let me just, I'm going to pull up my Facebook account because I post so much great crap on there. Literally.
Well, you can look at my Facebook.
Your feed?
you can look at Women Talking Tech stream as well.
Oh, that's an awesome thing.
We do.
So are we online now?
Oh, yeah, we're live. We're going.
Wow.
We're happening. and
Oh,
we're
awesome.
doing stuff. Oh, yeah. And somebody was talking about this earlier. Coffee versus beer. Bonnie?
The only non-beer drinker in
So, but
And non-coffee
but for
drinker.
productivity or creativity, what are we trying to get done?
Creativity, actually. It was coffee versus beer. Which drink makes you more creative?
Doesn't that depend on what time of day it is?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it loosens you up. If you got to do a bunch of sales calls, there's nothing like a shot of whiskey to get you started. You know? Hey, I got some stuff I want to sell you, but first,
Wine for
where was I?
presentations.
Yeah.
A lot of execs still have a little bottle in their bottom drawer there for visitors.
Well, I think, having a little tipple at lunch, it lubricates your ability to do business. I mean, back in the old days, in the 50s and 60s, like, they're doing martinis, man, like triple martini lunches. Holy crap. I mean, you've got a martini there. Did you do three? If you did 3 martinis, would you be able to negotiate a great deal?
I think with 3 martinis, I would be able to negotiate many things.
Well, there's a great saying. It's like, I love a martini, but 2 at the most. 3 am under the table, 4 am under the host.
Oh! Jeez, I've never heard that one before. All right. So what do you guys think? Do you think going and having a coffee to get yourself buzzed or having a beer to just get a little, one beer, what's it going to do? To get creative and get that, being creative, it's like I have a blank page. How can I get started? And you get stuck there. You get the creative block there.
Sounds like the round table question.
Oh, do you want to do a round table question? Okay.
No, that's a round table.
Okay, we'll make it the round table question. All right. So, Mr. Big Mouth, you're up first.
Hi, I'm Paul the Rock God at Paul the Rock God on Twitter, rockgod.ca, international karaoke superstar, I think, in my own mind. Anyways, coffee or beer? I think I'm more creative with beer. I think it loosens me up. I get too hyper with too much coffee, and it keeps me awake, but I'm not so creative. So I would. My vote is for beer.
All right, just one beer or a 6-pack?
Well, the more beer, to a point. Yeah, my creativity improves with a few beers, and after about 6 or 8 or 10 or 12, it kind of drops off a bit.
Yeah, you wake up the next morning and say, I'm sure I did something.
I was really creative, but I don't know.
I don't remember what it was.
I don't know if it was appropriately creative.
Sounds like Bob and Crazy TV talk. Yeah. Man, yes. I totally. Well, we did the. I'll talk about it later. Paul, Nosy Paul, you're up.
Nosy Paul, coffee or beer? Well, I'd have to say I'm definitely more creative on beer. But at the same time, as soon as I've read them after a coffee, I'd start deleting all the tweets I've ever done on beer. So it's swings and roundabouts.
Tweeting on beer, very good point, dude.
Don't do it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's we'll do that as a second round.
Hi.
Jay Dean.
It's Jay Dean. I'm at Bifrost Systems. Coffee or beer? Coffee's a productivity thing for me. It's a thing that if I really need to get something done and get something accomplished, coffee, it keeps me up and keeps me going. But creativity is definitely beer. If I want it to flow, I want it to be conversational and on the fly. So I use both equally.
All right, there you go. A shot of beer, a shot of what?
And that's called Kahlua, isn't it?
And caffeine beer is delicious.
Oh, okay.
Hi, here it's Stephanie Michelle Scott of Wildfire Effect. And of course, that's at Wildfire Effect on Twitter. I would have to say that the reason that I think beer makes you more creative is only because you're usually in more creative places, and it's the inspiration of things around you that make you creative, not the beverage that you're having at the time. So that's my take.
But
on
we're in the
creativity.
back room of a bunker here.
With a lot of fascinating and interesting people that always inspire me.
Very true.
Hey, I just want to jump in here. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right. Well, that was our technical check. We'll get back to Ken in a second.
Listening in earnest. To your
In earnest. Oh, okay.
Okay, Margaret Reynolds, Women Talking Tech. I would say it depends on the time of day. Early morning creativity definitely has to be coffee. Later in the day creativity, I would say beer.
Okay, Big Bonnie.
Oh, so Bonnie Sainsbury, Women Talking Tech. And I do
Hang
like
on for a
beer.
sec, Bonnie. We're not getting any
Yeah,
volume.
can't
Check
hear
to see
Bonnie.
if your mic's on. Can you twist the mic there? Yeah. Is it on? No, it's off. Okay. Now try it.
Bonnie Sainsbury.
Yes. Oh, see your sexy voice.
At B.
Hello,
Sainsbury.
Bonnie.
And Women Talking Tech. Beer.
Yeah.
Beer.
Beer. Oh,
Wait, when you
that's
come to the
simple.
bunker show, you just usually have a Coke, though.
Yeah, I don't drink because I take pills that say do not drink.
Oh,
She
that's
takes
just
pills to be. She
hogwash.
takes pills to be creative.
I know. I take pills. There you go. I take pills to be creative that say no alcohol.
Yeah, the little blue ones.
LSD.
Yeah.
Well, every time my doctor gives me pills, I'll say, how much can I drink with these pills? And he said, well, you can't drink. Well, I can't take those pills because I drink professionally. I mean, it's part of my job description. So, look at that, the mountain man. He made it in. Hey, I got your mic here, dude. Okay. All right, we have a surprise guest coming in today, but we're going to continue the round table. The question is, are you more creative on coffee or on beer? So, Sanj, you're up next.
Sanj Sukrkar at Genesis Designs. Twitter handle is at Genesis Designs. That's Genesis with a Y. I'm going to echo what Margaret said. If it's in the morning, certainly coffee. In the evening, Irish coffee.
Oh,
he's
all
going.
right. Very well done. Very well done. Ken?
Oh, yes. Yes, Ken McGrath. At Ken AMCG on Twitter. Yeah, for me, I don't really drink coffee except when I'm working. So what does
all
that
the
tell
time.
you? Yeah.
How creative are you?
When I'm at a job somewhere, or I have it for as pleasure in the afternoon. So yeah, if I'm working, I guess it's coffee.
Okay, cool. But I mean,
yeah,
but it's
not really, not
it's
really booze.
the question is more about not working, but the creativity part of that. If you're being creative, what works better for you? A cup of coffee or a beer or 2 or 5 or 10?
You're on
Do you want to have
coffee
a beer
right now, aren't you?
Do you want to drink a beer and think about it a little bit and come back to us?
Yeah.
All right. and
I'm just having a little something else.
shot of red rum. That looks like dark rum.
No,
man.
it's a shot of black spiced.
Ooh, he's such a classy guy. Okay, so the head first working for you, Simon?
Yeah, they're good.
All right. So
Mike-
we got a special guest here via Paul. Yeah.
Turn on the mic. Here.
Oh, is the mic not happening?
There you go.
Just give it a test because
Yeah, there you go.
Now you can
He's
hear
not
my
quiet.
dulcet tones.
Yeah. Oh, maybe dull tones.
Normally I'm loud enough I don't need a mic to be honest. I just stand outside and
He's
yell
like,
and people pick up on the Wi-Fi.
So I'd like to thank Paul for basically influencing me, having coming on the show. Tell us a little about yourself. What do you do for fun other than drink beer and coffee?
I'm a comedian. My name is Simon King. I'm a comedian. Some would say somewhat professional comedian. I haven't done anything else for well over a decade, so what can you do? That's my life. I travel around. I drink lots of beer and coffee, which are two of, I think, the most important for you. I don't like how we're fighting over which is the best. I think that's like picking a child. You can't do that.
We're not.
That's wrong.
We're not.
You're gonna you're gonna be like, oh well, beer's. Look, I've spent a lot of time with beer, and beer and I, we love each other. All right, but coffee motivates me to do things. Coffee gets me going, and beer brings me down. Coffee's like the yappy dog. It's like, yeah, we should do so. We should hang out. And beer is like
Notice
the
the
big,
coffee on the right.
Oh yeah, that's coffee 4.
Super
But
extra large
To be
grande.
fair, I'm just starting my work day, so by the time I mean, if you were drinking beer before you went to work, well, then you'd have to talk with the boss.
Well, thank God I'm
Thank
the
God we're all
boss.
Thank God we're all self-employed.
Somebody's been crapping in the supply closet again. I'm gonna be over here touching my toes next to the printer. Yeah, I'm a comedian.
So,
That's what it is.
as you can tell, we do have a comedian in our midst. So we're going to basically throw the show in that direction. So I just wanted to ask you, like, you've been a comedian for, like, what, how long?
13 years, yeah.
So you started, what, you were 5?
When I was 5 years old, yeah, and I was always a funny kid. No, I have a youthful smile. I have an old liver, so that works out well. I have a youthful smile. No, I started. I've been on stage since I was like 7 years old as an actor and stuff. And then when I was 22, I found stand up for the first time, and I haven't gone back. I love it. I absolutely love it.
So were you doing beer commercials back when you were 7? Is that what it was?
Well, I
It's
was
like the
born in
shit
England,
shit.
and they have different rules, as Paul will attest to the way booze is
That explains a
handled.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at him. Paul's slightly my future. That's what I look at. He's
God.
He's my Jacob Marley, just to show up. Change your ways.
Any advice?
That's so sad.
You know, if you can't be a good example, serve as a warning.
Yeah, precisely.
Have you updated your suicide note today?
I did. I changed it this morning. I put check out the podcast before I, just because they want to. Maybe I'll be like Van Gogh and people will like my things after I'm gone.
Yeah.
Probably not. No. But I'm still going to cut off an ear. Stay tuned.
Hey, there's an app for that. Don't worry about it, man.
For
It's like,
your-
here you go, honey.
Tortured post-impressionist app. Like drink absinthe and use iPhone. Fantastic. Everyone loves it.
Oh, hey, speaking of using social media when you're drunk or drinking absinthe and stuff like that, do you...
Why did you look over here?
Do you
I know. I saw that too. And it was like, speaking of being hammered, it's like, what are you lazy?
Well, girls, you're a social media specialist, and I know you're not supposed to tweet
We
or
never
be on the internet
drunk
when you're drunk.
tweet.
Speak
Never
for
drunk.
yourself.
What about if it comes out?
Hold on, you can sober tweet? You're changing everything. Using social. Oh, yeah, that's a good thing. Like the whole social. I'm very confused by social media. I don't really.
So
like,
are we all.
try, and I don't understand. Some people are so good at it. Like they're so good at Twittering and stuff. And I post things that I think. My buddy, a comic named Frank Calcanea, he's really, really funny. He's got like tons of followers. He's kind of quasi-famous dude. He always says, he's like, I follow you mostly because I love your Twitter meltdowns. Because like about 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll just start, what's wrong with the system? And I'll just use it like this weird 140 character manifesto.
One after the other.
I think that's my suicide note. It's all my tweets put together. Eventually people will be saying, we should have seen it coming.
Yeah,
we really
exactly.
should have seen it coming. No one said anything at all.
Yeah, look at this. He's hashtagging death every third
It's like,
line.
I'll tweet
But it's
something.
hard to see it when it's broken down 140 characters at a
Precisely,
time.
right?
You don't
Yeah.
see the whole message.
But you gotta cry for help in little bursts.
Now I'm going to ask Bonnie, isn't there a piece of software that enables you to do that when you can stack them all together?
Oh, yeah. Buffer.
Buffer. So there you go.
Buffer
You
app.
can buffer it.
Oh man, that would look like the craziest. I think about this because I'll tweet stuff like, "Yeah, the government shut down. Maybe we should lend them the Queen to keep them going." And also, then the next tweet is like, "Eyelids are weird." So like, I'll it makes no sense.
Oh my god.
Hey, I
That's
want
just
to.
like
It sounds
mine.
like my
I want to
show.
see that as a storify. I think that'd be a fantastic
That
storify.
What's a storify?
You can make a video of all your tweets.
All right.
What?
Oh, a bunch of vines.
Oh no.
Oh, I want to be
we
the
got the
producer
techies going.
for
We
a
got
bunch
the
of
techies
vines.
going.
I'm so
Uh-oh.
confused by all this.
Okay, so let's give Simon some advice here. For imagine he's sober, and
Give me a minute.
You sound like my grandpa.
Yeah, okay,
Imagine he's sober for 1 minute.
what should he be? How should he be using Twitter to help his fans have a better time when he's on stage and stuff like that?
He should be the same person on Twitter that he is on stage.
Have you
what
seen him on
happens.
stage?
Yeah.
Twitter
I don't
is
care.
not big enough for that. I mean,
No.
it's not loud enough.
You know what
But
You can be loud.
You
tweet
still
in all
need to
caps.
be you. Yeah.
I take the nuggets of I mean, if you read
Yeah.
my Twitter feed, it is like having a one-way conversation with me, which is probably the best kind of conversation to have with
That's
me.
right.
Really, you don't want to enable this behavior, but yeah, no, I do. I do tend to tweet. Like one of my favorite things to do is I'll find like a trending topic that's got something that I got a lot of meat on it that I can play with because I use Twitter as a writing tool sometimes too. So what I like to do, it's a really good stretch out for my brain because the kind of comedy I do is ranty and social and political stuff, but sometimes it's nice to go for that goofy stuff as well. And so when there'll be like a hashtag trending thing that's really fun, I'll do that. In fact, most of the followers I have come from that, just because people will retweet. They'll see something stupid, and they'll retweet like stuff like change a sitcom by losing a letter or things like that become like the government shutdown is trending right now, and I went to town on that for a bit just because I find that stuff funny. That's stuff I talk about anyway.
Yeah, it writes itself.
But it's also current, so people are looking at it.
Precisely, yeah. So it's like, and some you got to be careful, like the Kenyan mall shooting and stuff. You can't have to be sideways on that because some people get a little offended. But then again, having said that, I think also as a comedian, you kind of part of what you do is, I mean, I noticed that when there's a tragedy, particularly comedians will tweet stuff and kind of use the guise of, well, I'm being funny to get away with it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. One of my favorite comics is a comic named Doug Stanhope. He's extremely on the edge. He's extremely, he's a very, very good comic. But he also lives in a world without a filter because that's how he's able to do what he does. So like you were saying, if he changed what he did on Twitter, the people that follow him because they like they would be missing out. So I think your job, is to be as genuine as possible, unless you're playing a character like Drunk President or something like that.
No. What happens if something tragic happens in your life, like you bomb? Do you tweet about it?
To give you an idea of the way comedians deal with stuff, like I was extremely close with my grandmother, and the day she died, 4 hours later, I was on stage making fun of her because it was the only way I could deal with it. But it's the only way I can deal with it.
My family would do that.
And a woman came up to me. A woman came up to me after the show. She said, "Oh, that was really funny, but you should be careful because someone's grandmother may have just died." And I was like, "My grandmother did just die." And she's like, "No way." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "You're a freaking monster," and threw a drink in my face. And the other comics started laughing because we knew that's how you deal. So when I get problems that I can't really deal with, I seek to express myself, and so Twitter, that does happen on Twitter sometimes. By and large, I'm careful.
You can't please everybody, and and it's like my family deals with tragedies with a lot of black humor.
Yeah, it's one of the best ways to do it. I think.
All right, so Bob doing.
I went all TMZ.
Exactly.
He looks like Harvey too. He looks like Harvey.
Who's Harvey?
Right? And then this is really.
Who's Harvey?
Oh, the host of TMZ.
Got a cup.
Yeah.
Oh, Paul, you're so Hollywood.
And what's your Twitter ID there?
At Unfamous.
At Unfamous.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Wow.
You can see by the following that I have that it is true.
Well, it'll go up a little bit tonight.
Oh, look at that. That's nice.
How many listeners do we have to the podcast?
52.
Yes.
52.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow,
So
and they're all online
time.
today.
Growing every week.
Wow.
That's
By
better
one.
than my draw in Vancouver, so that's good. That's more people than I can put in a room.
Well, you just got to book small rooms.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah.
You're like,
It looks fuller when it's
super
small, huh?
private show or stuff like that.
Well, there's
People
no
think,
telephone
oh,
booths
we
on the
feel
street
like
anymore.
a comedy show in my car.
Oh.
5 seats.
Comedy cab.
I would love to
There.
do a comedy series actually with limos, and the ticket is that you go on a street corner and a limo pulls up and you get on. There's a comedian there, and you get 20
Surprise.
minutes of the comedian, and then it stops. You get out, and another limo pulls up, and there's a different comedian. You do 10 comedians with like 50 or 60 people, and just driving all around town.
That's a great idea.
Isn't that totally
50
cool?
or 60. How big a limo are you talking?
Well, you'd have like 30 different
Party
limos
bus.
and different.
Party bus would work a little better because then you can
Yeah.
stand up.
Yeah.
Because if I could stand it, because sometimes.
Are you a stand-up comedian or a sit-down comedian?
I'm a roll around. I do weird stuff. Sometimes I got a bum knee comedian. I'm just like,
That throws some salt
It
on
was
the ground.
Funny,
rolling
I
it.
just did just for laughs, and when I was there, my back was hurting really badly. I don't know what I did. I must have finally
Too much drinking.
Finally realized I was in my 30s as opposed to my 20s. I was like, "What's going on?" And it's weird how they give you back pills, but it's my front that needs help.
Yeah.
My back's not the problem. But and I was like, the first couple nights I was there before I found the benefit of just medicating with Maker's Mark. But the first couple of nights I was there, I was like stooped over and I was like, this is so sad that I'm like walking around like I'm, and then like give it up for the super energetic. I'm like, just get me to the stage and I'm doing my jokes.
Give me a wheelchair.
Just roll me up to the microphone. Here he comes, Grandpa Sadness.
Oh man!
Which, as we all know, is the Dutch Santa Claus, isn't it? Grandpa Santa Claus.
Yeah, a piece of coal for you, and you get a carrot. Fuck you! I want the coal.
This chocolate has maggots in it, Grandpa Sadness. It's the worst Dutch accent ever.
So I want to know, how long have you been mixing your medications?
I eat a lot of pills, I find. Because I figure if people drop them, they're probably going to take them and they were good.
Hey, if they dropped, if they'd seen they did drop them, they would have picked them up for sure. I mean,
If you just walk into any emergency room and start twitching, they'll give you shots of anything. It's
Wow.
great. It's
There you
really
go.
good. For the dry spells, the
yeah,
time
exactly.
between.
It's like, I'm trying to tweet. I need the red one.
Yeah. Bars don't always open until like 4 or what the hell, right? So sometimes you got to make do,
Yeah,
Figure
that's true.
yourself.
That's true. Well, that's why I have my own winery.
Oh, wow. Hello.
Yeah,
I
in
know.
the
I go
meantime,
in
you'll
and
never
people
get
whine at me all
pregnant.
the
So
time.
just keep taking the
but,
pills.
yeah. All right, let's get back to some reality here. Social media and a black beer.
Oh, there you are.
Aha. Thank you.
We
Uh-oh.
found you.
Bonnie, you've been stalked by 3 chicks. So who? Doesn't get much better than that. I tell you.
ladies.
Yes, but this chick has over 100,000 followers, so
Yeah.
you want to be followed by her.
That's like Jonestown numbers. How do you do that? That's, like, that's great. You can start a cult.
She
Like
keeps
cult
them
of Bonnie.
You're just gonna start
Like
rolling
cult of
around in a
Bonnie.
Segway with like a long robe. Hello, minions.
No, that's why we started Women Talking Tech.
And I know it has something to do with all the super fans that keep promoting her, right?
Oh,
Ooh.
exactly. I think
Yeah,
one-
Women Talking
cult
Tech will
of
become
Sainsbury.
a religion soon.
That's awesome.
That's
I
awesome.
can't. Yeah, I don't know how to.
Well, I think Bonnie should have a cooking show. You know,
think so,
Sainsbury. It sounds like some sort of dessert.
Well, Sainsbury
Steak,
is
isn't
a
it?
famous.
Salisbury, dude. Salisbury.
I know.
Sainsbury.
No, I said sounds like.
Sainsbury. I
Sounds
know.
like
Rich
Salisbury.
Rose.
Sainsbury is a grocery store.
It's like, you know.
The guy's from Australia. He doesn't know what he's talking about. They eat kangaroo down there.
Aussie
And they
Paul.
put that red
Have
radish
you
thing
ever had
inside
stuffed
things.
pouch for Thanksgiving? It's so good.
Oh,
Seriously,
yeah.
it's made for stuffing.
Oh!
With a side of wallabies.
Hey, somebody left a
Alright.
Joey in here. Oh, ouch. Okay, politically incorrect. Sorry, everybody. We have some fans in Australia. Okay, we have one. And the only reason he
but
hangs
he's not
out is
here
because I
tonight.
said he was cool and his daughter thought it was cool and she's a teenager. So for him, it's like,
He is cool.
We actually have a lot,
Is he?
but the rest are just wallabies. So
wannabes?
wallabies.
Oh, okay.
It's hard because you have to listen to the podcast upside down down there.
Oh, yeah. That's funny.
That's hard, yeah.
I'm not a
We've been
scientist,
talking about it, yep.
I'm not a doctor of science. I don't even know if that's a thing.
The microphone goes down the toilet the other way as well. So, every time I
Does
was
my
listening-
career go the other way down the toilet if I go to Australia? His hopes and dreams are going backwards.
So it might go up. You mean? That sounds good.
Oh my God, he's on an upward spiral. Look out.
Upward
If
spiral.
only we'd seen the signs. He was tweeting so
He
happily.
was
and
humming. He was positive.
and then he went to New Zealand.
You are funny.
Hey, she just tweeted that.
Oh,
He's
that's
funny.
nice.
I'm so disappointed.
No, I retweeted your TV thing too.
Oh, thank you.
118,000 people.
Good God.
Hey,
That's
it-
a lot of power for one
118.
woman to have.
I know.
Have you weaponized them yet? You should weaponize them. You really should. You should make them
That's
all,
Monday morning.
You should make them all go to like one no frills all at once at like 11:55. Just be like, we're going to the no frills, and just like everyone grab a turkey. Like just complete madness. Just can you imagine what's happening in here? They just came in. Just like one clerk, every cashier on now. Just people running up with turkeys. Just mayhem. That's insane.
Bonnie told us to.
You should all just take up one bike lane. Just do it. Just all ride one bike lane.
The mayor
Ideas
would
to
have
what to do with your followers on social media.
See, that's what you need.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's a
somebody
good
just asked a
article.
question. Hey, sorry, dude. We got what is the subject that you guys are talking? Yeah,
I
that's
apologize.
That's a hell of a
Comic
question.
social media. Comic.
It's like basically we're doing a comic version of our show, which is basically like our show.
It's kind of a regular show, just a bit more official.
so I'm gonna put that.
There may be some social media, there may be some technology, there'll be a lot of beer and digressions, and other than that, hold on.
Well, yeah, that is. If we digress, we get to drink a beer, and this show is being all friggin' digression.
Oh,
so
there you go.
But I do have a question for Simon. How do you manage your fans? Like, do you have actual fans, and do you have a fan club, or do you newsletter, or how do you manage them?
First of all, thank you for the liberal use of the word fans. I appreciate that. My parents will be glad you called them that. They will be so happy that you said. They're one of them. Anyway, no, what I've tried to do is I try to stay as in touch as possible, because the good thing about this being such a small, sort of like me being so under the radar, is that I can actually have communication pretty regularly with the majority. I mean, people send me emails all the time from they email me through through my site sometimes. A lot of time through Facebook and.
So you have a website,
I have a
and
website, yeah.
so people email you through there, and
Yeah,
so
they email me at thisissimonking.com. People go on there and email me, and I basically answer all those emails unless something extremely busy is happening. I can't get to them. Most of the time, I'm right on the other end of the email. So I just been doing some correspondence with a guy in Hamilton who saw one of the latest.
And what's your
little clip I did.
Facebook page?
Just Simon King. I don't know what the URL is for that. It's just, I think I'm the only one with a sign that says comedian, and I just look sad. So you'll find me. But Twitter has been really good for that too, because I can like Facebook. So I split my Facebook into two. I keep my personal page where I'm a little more communicative, but I try not to promote shows too much. Other than podcasts and stuff, I'll do that. But on my fan page I use it almost exclusively for promoting shows and trying not to. I try not to inundate my personal page too much with promotion, because I try to keep them a little bit separate. But also it's so my fan page is a good way for people to communicate, because the great thing about Facebook is people can actually directly contact you, and if it gets weird, because it has got weird sometimes, there's been a few people that it gets a little bit weird. I can only imagine what it's like further up the ladder, but for me it gets
I know that feeling.
You ever do that, like you're reading an email and it starts to take a south turn on you and you're like, oh my god. Like I got one from Paul the other day, said come to this podcast in the back room. And I came in and there was all these people, like I thought it was an intervention.
I thought it was a one-on-one, for God's sake.
And I was just like, oh my god, this is how it ends.
I would have dressed in my tux.
It's like the Pesci scene in Goodfellas. I was like,
it's just begun so far. Right?
But that communication is so great, and I love the fact that I can actually do that, because in this day and age, like back in the day, and before all this, it was basically email, and that was even, and before that, it was even harder. And now I have this kind of comfort of distance where I can actually, if it gets a little weird, which it has a couple times, I can back off or make it, because sometimes people will add me on my Facebook regular page that I don't know. I try to only add people that I know have 3 or 4 mutual friends, or that I know from real life, because otherwise it does get, and then you're accessible on chat all the time, and then people they get into your life a little bit, and it gets a little odd. So I try and separate my personal life very much as I can from life.
How personal is your personal life? That's what I want to know, because being a comedian, your life is out there. You go on stage and you go, bleh, here's my life.
It's how much you want to put on there. Like me, I don't put nothing personal on any of this stuff. It's all my. I know.
But Paul, you have to have a little bit of you come across. I mean, part about social media,
it's totally me come across, but I have no personal information. Like basically, that's. Yeah.
Well, here's case in point. Now, Paul. Sorry, the Rock God's been coming here for what, like a half a year, almost a year now.
About a year, maybe.
And I thought he was just a specialty karaoke singer. And then I found out like he's this high-end coder dude who does this computer shit. It's like, so there's two totally separate things.
And you wouldn't know it.
Two totally separate things. So it's very, very weird.
And I do that. I have my own fan page underneath my Facebook, and for my karaoke,
and then you can split it. Yeah,
karaoke,
and I find that because
business is another one, etc.
As a comedian, a lot of comedians, like, there's two kind of distinct styles of comedy. There's internal and external, in my belief. And most comics are internal comics, where they talk about themselves in relation to the world. I'm an external comic where I talk about the world in relation to myself. So I don't really need to talk about my personal life too much, because I don't find it that funny. And so because of that, not a lot of people have too much access to who I am in that way. So I don't feel any need to allow people access. Like if I was the kind of guy who talked about marriage and kids and stuff like that, if I had those things and I talked about that all the time, well, people would be aware that I had those relationships. But because of the kind of comedian I am, I talk about politics and society and lifestyle. And those are universal topics that don't require too much personal access. Now, people have personal access to me in the way that they know who I am as a person. People know what city I'm in. They know my sensibilities. They get a rough idea of my politics and my feelings and things and everything. But they don't need to know anything outside of my life. And subsequently, like right now, they're doing there's a documentary being done of me, and I had to be very careful as to who, because the guy wanted to talk to a bunch of people in my life, and I had to be very careful to who I let him talk to and who he wanted to talk to. Like,
your cat, your dog,
But like I've been in a relationship.
That cat talks way too much.
Like I've been in a relationship for almost 14 years, but she comes to shows once in a while. But our life does not involve stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
My life involves stand-up comedy. Her life involves school and whatever she does. And then together, we don't bring those things in because it's not necessary. So people know that I'm in a relationship, I guess, from my podcast and stuff, but they don't really know who she is. We don't link too much on Facebook because I don't want people on my Facebook page because I got a couple of weirdo comments early on when there were more pictures of us together, and I was uncomfortable with it, and I thought, I'm making the decision to be in this life. This is my life. Now, she's an adult and everything. She can do what she wants, but she's made it very clear that she doesn't necessarily want too many people having like her Facebook. She has like 80 people on her Facebook because they're people she actually knows.
Well, you're gonna have 52 more crazy people knowing about your relationship now because you just told all the 52 people.
Yeah. But it's true, like, so you have to maintain a little bit of distance, and I'm lucky because I have the benefit of the kind of material that I do doesn't require me to be too open about my personal life.
Okay, now
so going back to the question about how do you manage your fans? So you do mailing lists, or is it just like post through your posts and through your shows?
Normally he uses a cattle prod. You know.
Get the hell in the box. Get back in the box.
You like this?
They're a wily bunch.
Oh, you see through me.
Wire, duct tape. Well, what I do is in order to communicate with them. Twitter is actually quite useful, and a lot of when I'm in, depending on where I'm in a town, I built up a sort of a small kind of word of mouth following in the larger cities in the country. So, like, I just did a show in Toronto not that long ago, and in order to get people out, we tweeted it and everything else, but a lot of it came from people in and around who knew. So it's actually kind of a neat old school way of doing it, and it's kind of like it's the equivalent of being like bringing your friends over and go, listen to this record, this is great, and then everyone goes out and buys Friends and comes alive. So the idea was that, like, I do try and make myself accessible. I do tweet a lot, like promoting this show that I'm doing at the Rickshaw, trying to get people in the city to come to things. It's putting me out on a bit of a limb because I should have been doing this in the States and trying to do this in Canada, especially in Vancouver, where people are notoriously apathetic. And normally TV tapings are free, like that's the way you do it. I can't afford to do that because I'm doing this on my own buck because I want to own it. I don't want an American network to own this. I want this to be something I own, because a little while ago there was an article in Vanity Fair that said Canadians weren't funny, and I took that rather personally, and I was about to tape in Los Angeles for the next special, and then I scrapped the whole thing and thought, screw this, I'm doing this in Vancouver.
Go on, look at the states. The states, they've just collapsed. The government shut down. I mean, that's all your fault, man.
That's because I would not do the special.
All that jobs.
He left the city. He shut down the fucking government, man, or I would come and take you out.
All the Tea Partiers are, damn, we wanted them here so bad. Oh, Shouty's not coming to town. But so I thought, I'll do this in Canada.
Gonna take my toys and go home.
Yeah. Screw you, Liberty, America, high five, or whatever. And then they just drink Mountain Dew and pass out. I don't know how the Tea Party does their things, but I guess there's a lot of that. I guess there's a lot of shooting guns in the air. Bang, bang, bang. America. That's why I think it would be hilarious. We should send a bunch of redcoats down there. Just be like, if you can't run your own shit, we'll do it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll take over for you. Don't worry. We'll handle it. But yeah, so that's...
Okay.
So
that's good. Good answer.
Do you do it through like Twitter a lot, or Facebook, or what do you do?
I'm doing Twitter, and I started on Facebook and Google Plus recently, but mainly Twitter first, and just my local following, like you said. I have a website. My website does quite a bit of hits, and just getting people every day there. So so that's.
Do you YouTube a lot?
No, actually, I don't. That's one of the things about saying private a bit. You know, you want people to come out and see your show. You know, you don't want to give it all away, for free.
Well, you know, that's funny because, like, look at Louis C.K. He's a guy that's giving it all away, and he's made a lot of money by giving it all away.
Yeah.
I think if you're a comedian and you're doing something that's uniquely a style, you want to introduce that style to as many people as possible, because if people get it and they laugh, it's like, oh man, I haven't had a good laugh like that. And then there's brand recognition, and then when they do see your ad or whatever, your promotion, your tweet, say, oh. Yeah. He's coming to town. We should check him out. It's Wednesday.
That's
we can't
why comedians do late night talk shows and stuff. It's because you take that 5 minutes. Like I'm taping an hour 10, and there are clips out there, different clips. There's a 5-minute clip of some of the stuff I'm doing. Now it's only 5 minutes, but it gives you a really good feel of what I'm doing. It's a thing I did for the Winnipeg Fest last year, and then I just taped one for JFL, which has a little bit of different stuff. But over those two things, that's about 10 minutes of material from that hour 15 or hour 10. But the good thing about that is both of those are a really good example of what I do. And so when that gets out there, people go, oh, I kind of like this. I have a lot more people these days showing up saying, oh, I saw you on TV, or I saw this thing, or I saw you on YouTube. And that really does help that word of mouth.
Okay, no,
because when it comes down to it, if I say, let's go see a band.
It's that little teaser.
Good? Yeah, precisely. And so if you say, I want to go see music, well, no one says I want to go see music. They want to go see a band or a kind of band.
And they want an experience.
And you're likely to go to one that your friend recommends or that you know has good taste, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's funny, in Canada, Canadians seem to have a real problem about celebrating Canadians. It's horrible. There's a guy, Carter Horty, is it Carter Horty? And he's a local comedian. And he did a great set about 2 years ago. He did this great joke. And then we had Tommy Tiernan, who's a phenomenal Irish comedian. He came and he did a fantastic show on Granville Street. I can't remember where. And the Straight wrote up this show. And the highlight of the show was this joke where Carter Hawty said, "Oh yeah, I give my wife roofies, not so I can have sex, but so I can get some peace and quiet." Yeah. And that was a joke that Carter Hawty had said a year before.
Yeah.
You know, and I was, it just blew me away that this was the highlight of the Tommy Tiernan show, and yet it what Carter Hawty was doing a year before didn't make the news at all. Yeah. And Canadians have got a real problem celebrating Canadians.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
it's like you're envious of Canadian success.
There's a weird inbuilt humility that is super. It's a big part of being Canadian. There's an anti-hero thing, and Canadian comedy benefits from this in a big way. We're like being British, being raised British, and spending all that time in America, and being a comic in Canada. I have this kind of neat kind of middle ground thing, and what Canadians do really well is we are really able to allow people access to us because we have humility. You will. This is the way I explain it. If you ask a Canadian who their favorite band is, they'll go, "Oh, I really like Radiohead. You should listen to this." If you ask an American, they go, "Radiohead's the best." What are you, stupid? And that's the difference. But that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
Is Americans and American sensibility is more forceful, and the British sensibility too a little bit. Although the British they kind of have a different intelligence about comedy, whereas Canadians, we produce this amazing stuff, and it's music as well. We produce this amazing stuff, and yet we're somehow kind of embarrassed to promote. Like, if you get famous in the States, then all of a sudden they love you because someone else has said it's okay to love you. Yeah. But if you're not successful outside the country,
Do you want to get?
Nickelback, fantastic.
We're such an asshole.
Sorry.
Are they famous in the States?
Mic check.
Yeah. Was that Nickel and Dime? Nickel and Dime. Oh God.
Hey! Alberta has put up some really
Katie
lovely
Lang,
songs.
man.
Don't
She's awesome. Hey, I wanted to ask you, what's the best comedy club in Vancouver? Like, a lot of people, they say, "Hey, let's go for some comedy." Where the hell do you go comedy in Vancouver?
It really depends on what you're looking for. Like, if you're looking for the club experience of like they go to a club, see a really tight 3-person, 4-person show on a weekend. The Comedy Mix is the place you want to be.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
It's a beautiful.
Where's
club.
that?
The Comedy Mix is on Burrard, underneath the Century Plaza Hotel.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful club.
Across
It's been
from
around
St.
for 10
Paul's.
years. Actually, yeah, they're just having their 10-year anniversary.
Used to be
show
Yuck
on
Yucks
Tuesday.
or something, I think it was.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, and the club, it's a beautiful club. It's late from a performance point of view. I'm at the right height with the audience. The sound is good. It's a couple hundred people. It's the great club. It's a really nice location. I've done the Vancouver Yuck Yucks a few times. It's a nice club too. There's nothing wrong with it. I just prefer the Mix because it's my home club. But for me, your best bet if you're a comedy fan, if you're just going to comedy, a couple times a year as a party or whatever, then you want to go to the club because that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, guaranteed a good belly.
But if you're a comedy fan, there's so many great rooms in this city that you can. There's rooms like Displace Hashery on Wednesday nights has a show. I'm doing tonight. I'm doing a show at the Biltmore. There are shows. There's shows from basements of pizza parlors to like improv clubs to there's everything in between. There's a lot of Vancouver comedy that's very, very good, and the stand-up comedy in this city is second to none. I've been to all the scenes. I've seen them all. There's something strange about this city, and part of it is because what we talked about how, like, we don't celebrate our own in a way. So there's this weird kind of quiet competition amongst ourselves. It's not aggressive, but it's like there's so many good comics, and there's so many people who are successful and extremely good at what they do, but without being, too famous to sort of like to kind of be alienated. So there's this weird group where, a friend of mine just moved back to Australia, and he said the weird thing is he listed up a bunch of comics from Vancouver, and he said guys at this level are famous in Australia. He's like, but they're not famous in Canada because it doesn't. Like, our next biggest city that we can do shows in is Victoria.
Yeah,
which is a ferry ride, or you got to drive. Like, I often drive 16 to 18 hours to do shows.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, we're talking the same kind of thing with our business about. We're promoting something for our company, and it's like, well, where do we go next? Do we go to Calgary? No, closest city is Seattle. We have to cross the border. You go Seattle, you go Portland, and San Francisco is almost equal to going to Calgary or going to Edmonton.
Absolutely.
It's
and your
so
population
weird.
base is so much higher, and the economy in California is so much stronger.
Yeah.
Calgary is the next biggest hub for Canadian comics. I will spend the majority. I mean, I'm just after I tape this thing, I'm basically on the road until New Year, and I will spend most of the next 2.5 months in towns like Tisdale in Saskatchewan and Provost in Alberta, and like these little tiny towns doing these gigs, because that's how you survive. Now, if you get to Toronto and stuff, there's more there. But if you're a Western comic in Vancouver, being based out of here, there's probably a handful of comics who are full-time comics in the city. And there's way more who should be, but most people have to have a job to survive because it's way too hard.
It is unbelievable just how few people go out and watch comedy. I mean, I went to see Dwight Slade. Who is the guy who was, Bill Hicks's writing partner. And this guy, I mean, phenomenal. Bill Hicks was I've got a list. It's Jesus, it's John Lennon and Bill Hicks. And
Bill would
Dwight
be sad he's
Slade.
third.
Yeah.
He'd be like, really? Jesus beat me? And they all
Sorry
had
about
similar
that.
hair.
Yeah, but
It's kind of like being beat by Santa.
I got beat by Santa one year.
None of your perversions, please. This is a decent family show.
do you have to perform?
I said
do you have
Santa,
to
not
perform,
Satan.
Being
to
beaten
a
by
live
Santa, I don't want to know
audience?
about that.
What?
Is there a reason why internet comedy, why entertainment hasn't gone into the internet?
Stand-up comedy is a unique and interesting art form in that it's one of the last true free open art forms. It's one of the last. It's very much like being a town crier, especially if you're saying something that's a little bit charged. But it is. And so that instant response is so required for, because I make. Even if I say I'm going to do this hour, like I know the material I'm going to do before I walk in, I still have to make minute adjustments based on the way the audience is perceiving it, because it's an interactive experience.
It's the feedback.
It is.
It's the energy you get.
And so that's why it's sometimes when you watch a special of a comic, it's not as good as seeing them live, because they are making minor adjustments because an audience full of people is like an animal. You have to kind of treat it with, you have to respect and you have to understand it. So making that leap to the internet is very hard, because we don't have that instant feedback. Even with something like having people in a room and being able to see their faces and read them and communicate with them is super important, for at least for me, for what I do.
Yeah.
I believe a comic's number one skill that they should have is reading a room. And so when you move it to that level, I think you can still get the jokes out, you can still do, but then I think you lose that intimacy. So I think I prefer small rooms of people even to large ones. Like I've played 5,000 people, I prefer 500 or less. That's my favorite, because I can see them with the low ceilings and like we're all in it together. It feels to me more honest and more like you have to grow bigger to survive.
I think
So that being said, I'm just wondering if Google Hangouts, do you think is going to be something that comics are going to embrace, because they actually can connect with their fans on that type of that way?
Okay, what's a Google Hangout?
That's the thing on Bob's screen. That's on Bob's screen.
Two-way video.
Yeah, that's
Two-way video.
But
But it's a small audience. But it's a very small audience.
well, no. But what you could do is you could have you could do 9 people. You could invite 9 super fans, make it a competition or whatever at the club. Blah blah blah. We'll invite you, and then you do a private show for 9 other people.
That would be interesting.
But the thing is,
But
this
you're gonna have
broadcast-
10,000 people
but this
listening.
broadcasts live to YouTube, right?
So
they
anybody
become
can
a-
watch
and
it, but you will only see the 9
that would
faces.
be interesting, because then you get people, because especially if they know who you are, now you're dealing with people who know what they're getting before they walk in the room. So now you can go, and that's where I'm hitting my head on the roof right now, is like I have a lot more I want to say and a lot more I want to do, but I still have to go on the road, and I still have to go to Grand Prairie and explain to them for 15 minutes the kind of comic I am before I get into the stuff I really want to do.
Oh.
Now that's why the small rooms are good, because you can kind of play around here. There's no pressure. Vancouver's great for being able to be under the radar and try what you want. But when you get out there and when you work, you have to have a certain. So, like I look at, like I just recently just worked with Doug Stanhope, and his crowd, they know who he is before he gets in the door.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I mean, some of them are really messed up human beings. Like they're really weird human beings.
Yeah.
But the
It's
bottom
not
line
subtle.
is, he said some stuff that I'm like you. Even Doug Stanhope couldn't say that in a room full of people who didn't know what they were getting because he still offended people.
Yes.
Like Carlin was walking people on his last tour. Carlin, you pay $100 a ticket to see George Carlin, a man whose career is taller than him. And still you're walking out. And so that means the level that they can go to at that point is absolutely amazing. And so for me, I'm not there, and that's one of the reasons why you try and get your profile up so you can. So when you're at that level, having a small thing like that would be great because you can see people, and then it can be broadcast to other people. That would be kind of neat.
But if you did that, right? Say you did a Google Hangout with like say Bob organized a Google Hangout for you and another half dozen comedians.
Yeah.
If you then banged that out over Google Hangout, who would own the rights to it?
It would be the person that account it would be connected to, right? The person, basically, if I did it through my account, then it would go to my YouTube account.
Yeah.
boom,
So
boom,
it should
boom,
be
my
him
blog.
doing it if he was doing it. Simon
So
would
could
do
you-
it
so
and
is this being
organize it,
recorded,
and
or
then
is this just streaming
invite
Actually,
people.
it's streaming.
Snapchat?
No, it's streaming and being recorded.
So
Both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes to you. And
So
what
could
happens
you
is-
charge people to join the Hangout and to listen to it?
No,
or-
it's not a monetized type of thing, but it doesn't
Not
matter.
yet.
What you
YouTube
can
is
do-
monetized eventually if you get enough
YouTube
views.
is talking about it.
Oh, yeah, they're talking about. Okay,
YouTube,
well, there you go.
YouTube is talking about it.
I think the exposure
They
is
need
so
to.
key more than anything else. I'd love the ability just to access because I have fans in I have some fans in Thunder Bay, for instance. There's no foreseeable way I'm getting to
Wow.
Thunder Bay this
Yeah.
year because just there's no way to do it.
Yeah.
Do a
but it would be
private
great
show
to be
for
able
them.
to offer
Yeah,
them and go look.
exactly.
Or if people
You could do a crime and get sent there.
I could.
Well, actually,
Can I ask a question?
Sure,
Sorry to
go.
interrupt.
Yeah,
Bob.
yeah, go for it.
Just 2 weeks ago, we went to the fan club and we went and saw Greg Proops, and it's not his regular set; it's his podcast set.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
Yeah,
The
he's
room
really
was
funny.
absolutely packed,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
it was quite a unique environment
Yeah.
because he sat down at a table with a newspaper. He does a bunch of research. He researches the region he's in, and he's definitely an intellectual comedian, but he's all about baseball, weed, and the Constitution. Like he's an amazing guy, and that's different than his stand-up. His stand-up is fantastic.
The
but
Greg
that-
Proops from 2.5 Men.
2.5 Men. I don't know. Is
No,
that-
he was
no,
from Whose Line.
No, he's from
really?
Whose Line
Okay.
is it anyway?
Yeah. He's
and
amazing.
Yeah,
He's
really
fantastic. But it was
Actually-
an amazing show, and it's different from a stand-up
Yeah.
show. It's completely different.
Yeah.
But the audience that comes there, and he, then he puts that out in his podcast, and you get to listen to that,
Yeah.
and it is a live
It's specific
environment
to that room, yeah.
And on the podcast, I thought it was very comparable in terms of I listened to his podcast before I went and saw him record a live podcast. It was very comparable. That live recorded,
But it was that
stand-up.
little bit for you as well. Like
Yeah.
that being in that room. Like I just did Nanaimo and Ladysmith back to back. And I don't know if you know where those, but Ladysmith it's a much smaller, much different. So Nanaimo, I go there and we sold it out. It was great. We were at this rock pub called the Queens. It was awesome. We were drinking. We were having fun. I was screaming and yelling, and we did like an hour or so, and it was great. And it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. And I didn't have to ease them into it at all because I had a reasonable belief that about half of those 110 people were there to see me. So right away, I had a good part of the audience on side, so it was good to go. Ladysmith was a different story. Ladysmith, they were not aware who I was, most of them, with maybe a half a dozen or so. But what I did do was I wanted to give them the same show that I gave in Nanaimo, basically, because I don't believe that geographically they should be disqualified from getting the material that I want to give them. Also, that's what I want to do, and I'm at the point now where I've got just a little bit of screw you in my system and go, this is what I do. But in order to make it acceptable and palatable to the room, I had to change the way into it. So instead of starting with something really abrupt and really sharp and political and social and blah, 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 I did a couple of little jokes to let them know what kind of a dude I was, what kind of comedy they were going to get, and I slowly but surely made it a little darker and a little weirder. And then when I hit them with the stuff, they were totally on board because they knew who I was. And then by the end of the set, we were all fine. But if I didn't do that extra 5 to 7 minutes at the beginning, it would have been a harder battle. Yeah. Still would have worked because I still believe they would have got it because they did. But why not make that little adjustment? Why not make it a little bit easier for anybody in that room who may not have even seen live stand-up comedy before? Because the amount of population that actually sees live stand-up on a regular basis is so small. Yeah. It's like 1 to 2% of people in this country go to stand-up comedy, and in Vancouver you could think it was less. Yeah. So,
well, that's why I'm such a huge fan of podcasts because most of the comedians I really know right now and I go see on a
the
regular
podcasters.
basis is
Yeah.
because of podcasting. Because I get to listen to them when I'm driving in my car. I get to use them, listen to them while I'm doing my dishes, and I really get to experience who they are.
Do you listen to Bill Burr's podcast?
I listen to Bill Burr. I listen to Jen Kirkman. I listen to
Stanhope's got a good one too, actually.
I didn't know Stanhope had one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? It's Stanhope, so it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's-
Greg
it's-
Proops I listen to, Rogan I listen to,
Rogan's
Duncan
is good,
Trussell I listen to. Like, that's where I'm getting my experience. Dana Gould's podcast is fantastic. And
He's
he
so
came
fun.
and
He's so
played at the Comedy
underappreciated,
Mix,
that guy.
and he led in
Yeah.
with the most offensive jokes you could imagine, just to say, guys, I'm not fucking around.
And that is what you can do with a little bit of weight behind it.
Because he had his podcast
That's one of the
fans
reasons. And
there.
that's one of the reasons I started podcasting. I do actually just uploaded one today. The What's Wrong with Simon King podcast is it's not the podcast itself is not designed to be a laugh a minute. The podcast itself is designed to be more accessible.
Yeah.
Me without because what you do on stage is you turned up a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is me talking. It's just me. It's just me and my iPhone. It's really low tech. I just talk and I don't plan it out. I read letters and that's it. And like basically I don't even read letters some weeks because sometimes they don't send any in. I just talk about what I want to talk about that week, which helps me write because sometimes that stuff will end up on stage. But one of the things I really like about that is that people now have this kind of access to you that they wouldn't normally have. So I still have control over it. I still have the ability to say what I want to say, but I don't edit it. If I can absolutely avoid it, unless there's a technical problem, I send it right out. And so I believe that it should be like, and so when people come and see me, I'm starting to now get more people who have actually listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
So now they know when they walk in that door. They may not have seen my act, but they've seen me.
they know the
or
product.
They know me.
So now I have a bit of a question about that as well. Because social media offers you the opportunity to really get to know your fans really well, what do you do in order to get to know them better? In a city, would you say, hey, I'm going to be here, come out to my show, then chat with them on Twitter for a bit before it happens? What techniques do you
I do
use?
that sometimes. Yeah. Actually, I've had the weirdest. Sometimes I'll be on Twitter if I can. I mean, sometimes it depends on the scheduling and stuff. But if I have a minute or two to be on Twitter before the show, or sometimes when my opener's on, I try not to do that because they should show respect to the opener. But for a little bit before, if people tweet direct me, I let them know where I'm going to be. I let them know before the show what's happening, and then usually if they tweet to me, I can tweet them back before. I get that happen in the weirdest locations sometimes, like Grand Prairie and like Fort St. John and stuff. I'll get people tweeting, going, "This music before you go on is really lame." I'm like, "What the heck?" Like, so it's really fun, and I try to make myself as accessible as possible. But there's also a certain amount of work that has to be done for the show. Like before the taping, I'd love to be able to do that, but quite frankly, I'll be out of my head, insane, worrying about things. So afterwards, yeah, it'll be great. I'd love to, and I'd love the idea of being able to communicate with them. But I talk with fans after shows all the time.
I also wonder if you actually watch or listen to the Thornbleeder podcast that I listen to regularly, which basically talks entertainment celebrities or being celebrities, talking about how they actually interact with their fan bases in order to grow their fan networks as well. And if you haven't, I would
I
suggest
should listen to
It's
that,
really
actually. You know
good.
what? I travel so much that podcasts I just love.
Yeah.
Books on tapes and podcasts are like the thing that I love. And that's like interacting with. I will talk to anybody after shows. In fact, sometimes if I'm selling CDs and after shows, sometimes I'll annoy people trying to buy CDs because I like to chat. Because I do. Because it's part of the fun of this for me is I get to meet a lot of people. Like a few months ago, I was doing a show up in the north in Alberta, and after the show, a couple of dudes who were working for Halliburton came over, and one of them started getting really drunk, and he started spilling his guts. Oh boy, he had got booted from Texas or whatever because he worked on Deepwater Horizon. Ooh. And he came north because he wouldn't shut his yap, and now he's up in the middle of nowhere in Canada getting drunk, spilling his guts to me. And at this point, his friends left. Like I knew it was over the line because they left. So now I'm sitting here, and this guy's like, "Let me tell you the truth about this stuff," and I'm like, I can't, I'm not going to go around saying who said it or anything, but by the same token, this information is now in my head. Yeah. And I want to share some of it in some way, because we all know it's crooked as all hell. There's no, but now I've got a first-hand account of a guy who was inspecting concrete casings, telling how they paid off inspectors. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? And I'm like, listening to this. Like, I talked to a woman who left Damascus about 3 weeks before all hell broke loose. And she said to me, she's like, I don't know what happened. She's like, it seemed fine when I was there. And she was telling me how she grew up there. Everything was fine. She's like, But I did know that Walmart tried to put a store in there about 6 months before all this went down, and Syria won't allow Western. They only had one Western franchise, which was the Cinzio. No wonder they went crazy.
Surprised they don't have McDonald's. But
yeah, but that's the thing. So all of a sudden, this market's not open. It's a great strategic location. I'm just saying that, like, I talk to these people. You take it with a grain of salt, but I get these great interactions with people I would never normally be able to talk to because why? But because they see what I do, they see an access to me.
Yeah.
And because they know who I am, I mean, I do get a lot of conspiracy nuts because they think. Like, I had a guy come up to me after a show and he goes, "Hey, Sasquatch." I'm like, "All right, let's you start a conversation with 'Hey, Sasquatch.'" So he says to me, I go, "All right, what's up?" He goes, "Sasquatch," and he looks around. He goes, "You know they're from the future, right?" I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, nice.
And so I said to him, I was like, so my response, not missing to me, is like, "Why are they so hairy?" He goes, "Well, you know, we got global warming now." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, in the future, it's global cooling, so we got to get hairy to keep warm." I was like, "They don't have sport coats in the future? No one's throwing on a windbreaker?" And then he leans in, he goes, I said, "Well, how come they're so tall?" And he leans in, he goes, "Gravity ain't shit in the future." And he walks away. That interaction would never normally happen, but this guy thought, I see that guy over there who talks like, and then he's like, well, sometimes they'll be like, "What's your home address?" And you're like, "You know what? I do a lot on the internet." And then you go home and immediately block him on Twitter because he's like, "I found something." "I'm gonna mail you one of my thumbs." All right, you know what? But these are interactions that you normally wouldn't have, and I think it's fantastic. And you can keep in touch with them online now, which is great. So sometimes I still talk to the people from
Sasquatch man.
Sasquatch guy. Sasquatch guy's too busy building some sort of Sasquatch temple. I don't know what he's doing. It's like, I want to be in charge of
Sasquatch farm.
Yeah. But so that's kind of a cool thing. So yeah,
Sasquatch diplomacy.
Okay,
like
I mean, all this podcast stuff and this, hour of whatever is cool, but it is sort of old school.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thinking, if you were my client, what would I do? And the first thing I'm thinking is 6-second Vine, because
you'd be awesome for
you're
Vine,
really. You come across.
You're concise.
You're concise. You do it in 140 characters.
Yeah.
And when I said, "Oh shit, you really are funny," that was because I went through your.
Oh, okay.
through your
You'd be
Twitter.
checked out, buddy.
And
I love how they drop off sometimes, and you're like, "Oh, now it's sad. Now it's sad."
but being a comedian and communicating with people with some of the newer channels. So it's not exactly the same as, doing an hour show and having the Sasquatch. I don't know where you're going to find. Sasquatch guy is all over the internet, for Christ's sakes. I mean, you just take him seriously and the rest of us block him. So
well, because I know that Sasquatch guy eventually will buy tickets because he'll be like, "I talked to this guy and we're in the same wavelength." And I was like, I kind of want Sasquatch guy there because then I can keep my eye on him. Like if he's in the audience, I'm like, Sasquatch guy, we're fine. If he's just wandering around the wilderness.
He's in the back.
But there may be other ways for you to entertain people. There are other channels for you to entertain people other than the standing up in a club or whatever. And I'm just
definitely.
I had to get that out because
But is Vine monetized?
So Bonnie goes right up against Sasquatch guy. She wanted me to do 6-second. What the fuck?
Exactly.
No, I know what Vine is because I was trying Vine and I did a couple where I didn't realize that if you held the screen, it kept recording. So I did a couple of those. But the funny thing about me is like I'm at the point now where my brain is kind of full.
Yeah.
Like I just have got so many things happening. I've got to start making the organization a little bigger because I can't it's such a solo individual thing, stand-up comedy, and that's kind of part of what it is. But there does come a point where I'm like, I can't, like when someone showed me Snapchat the other day, I didn't know what that was. And like when you're talking about Google Meet, like I didn't know what this is just because I don't have any more room in my brain right now. Like I've been needing to redesign my website for about 3 years. And I'm not kidding. For 3 years, I sit down and go, all right, I'm going to do this. I sit down and then I start doing something else. And then I start, because you got to book work and you got to think 3 months ahead. And you got to, I still do most of my
I wanted to ask that question about it. I mean, really, we've reached this self-management era. Specifically for artists and comedians, that we're not going to the corporate model anymore, and the the so-called trickle-down effect of money once you have somebody who buys your album or buys your special and puts it up on TV for you, you're not going to see a lot of dollars. The more dollars you're going to see is people in seats at a show. And that's all self-managed. It's you probably doing bookings, you doing your own merch, you doing your own advertising, your Twitter, your podcast. So it becomes this really, like the line is the self-management model. Now, you've been doing this for how long, you
13
said?
years.
So have you seen that huge shift of self-management now where you're having to do a bulk of this in order to get, not just get people to see your shows, but get to see you, like you said, really understand who you are.
Social media is actually a huge key in that because it, for the first time, like back in the late 90s, early 2000s, you basically, if you wanted to get any profile at all, you had to be on television. It was the only way to do it. There was no podcasting. There was no YouTube until 2005. So nobody had any access to this stuff. Nobody knew how to do it. And also the technology to record videos and stuff. I remember recording some of my early sets. It was a hassle. You had to bring in different mics and you had to do. Now you can get flip cams that are taken, like the camera on the iPhone is better than what you could get with like a big setup back in the day. So we have more control of that, which allows comics to find their audiences more. There is a definite rebirth in stand-up comedy that's happening, which allows people to be more genre specific than ever before. Because you used to just like be like, I want to see stand-up comedy, and you didn't know who you were seeing until you got there, unless they were a famous person. And if they were a famous person, odds are they got famous from television, reading lines someone else wrote for them. Like, you know, like people were always surprised that Bob Saget was filthy. They didn't know that he was a dirty comic because he was Dan Tanner on Full House, and they didn't know that that's who he was. So when they'd go and see him, people would get disgusted because he's filthy. But
really
so
good filthy.
Yeah, like a guy like Stanhope is a great example of until it was the 2000s before he was able to really reach his audience, and so now we have access that we didn't, which allows us to self-manage more. I mean, my entire, like I said, everything I do comes from like there's very few television appearances and stuff that make any difference. Most of what I do is word of mouth. Yeah, but even then, like now, late night talk shows aren't what they used to be.
But Leno, I see comedians on there almost every night. You know, when I watch.
It used to be Tonight Show with Johnny Carson was the thing. You did the Tonight Show with
You're
Johnny. It
made
changed your career, right?
Yeah.
If you do the Tonight Show now, nobody cares what Chin says. Nobody cares. Like nobody. No, so you can do these things and it's good. But I have buddies who've done late night talk show appearances like 20, 30, 40 of them. And you don't know who they are. But they have a podcast that hits, yes. So you have that access. And because it really is kind of, you know, the people that come and see my shows are the people that matter because they're the ones that are fans enough to actually get off their ass and come down and see it. And that makes me happy. So I want to make them happy. So I want to make sure those people get the best show out of me, which allows me to be more specific to what I do. So instead of just going, like, music is a great analogy. You don't just go see live music. You go and see country or hip-hop or rock. And if you wanted to see rock and you got hip-hop, you'd be a little bit pissed off. So I'm not Vanilla Ice Cream anymore. I'm not accessible to everybody as much as I used to be. I try to be, but I also want to make sure that because I'm Tiger Tail, that people get the Tiger Tail. When they come, they get what they want. I don't want to try and please everybody all the time anymore because it ends up upsetting the fans that really want what you have to offer. And because it's all kind of self-managed now, I'm in control of how I'm presented. Because back in the day, I still have managers and stuff, but back in the day, they would say, you know, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way, and you have to conform. Now I don't, because there's a market for everything. So this special, the reason I'm doing this up here and having control myself is because I have control. Because I can say to them, if a network doesn't want it, we go to the next one. We go to the next one, as opposed to them paying to film it and then saying we don't like it and get rid of it.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in. Sorry, guys, we're running out of time. I know you got to go to a gig really quickly.
Sorry.
How do people get a hold of you? Where do they go? We know your Twitter.
And what's this gig? What's this gig?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I got to go to Paul Anthony's Talent Time at the tonight at the.
Oh no, I meant sorry.
Okay.
Your rickshaw.
I'm taping my new special. It's called Furious. It's like I said, we're taping it for like for television, so it's like a proper setup. It's at the Rickshaw Theater, October 12th. We're doing 2 shows, an 8 and a 10:30. I'll be slightly drunker and more surly for the late, so that might be the one you'd want to catch. You can buy tickets at live@rickshaw.com, or you can. I mean, the event's all over the place now, and they're $5 online. That's it.
Nice.
Like I said, as cheap as we can to get people out. Stanhope gave me a nice plug for it too, which was nice. So I think we'll get some heat. And I really taping a special in Vancouver is risky, and like I said, I kind of hope that this works because I really want Vancouver is a world-class comedy scene, and it would be nice to be able to tape something here that gets shown all over North America.
Feature the city.
That has the city, and it's not just Canada's more than Toronto.
Somebody call the mayor.
Can you plug the podcast? Because I'd really be interested in listening.
Oh yeah, my podcast is called What's Wrong with Simon King, and I publish it every Wednesday. It's a half-hour podcast, and it's just basically me rambling and being a maniac. It's on iTunes.
Kind of what you got tonight.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like this. You know, it's that I don't need participation from other people. It's just me and booze. But I sometimes I record them when I'm on my way to gigs in the car. Sometimes I record them in hotel rooms. I try to make it as organic and natural as possible. So it really is just kind of like hanging out and having a beer. And so it's a very low tech thing, but people seem to like it. It seems to be received. And sometimes I'll rant and rave, and it's not always hilarious. It's not always serious. It's the mood I'm in that day at that time. So it's kind of neat that way. It really is open access. And then of course on Twitter @Unfamous or Facebook or whatever, you'll find me.
All right. Hey, I just want to say a big thank you for our sponsor, Okanagan Springs Brewmaster Black. A friggin' awesome beer. You should try it out, man. I
should give it a whirl. Yeah.
Damn good beer, man. Thanks for joining us. Amazing. Thank you very much. All our participating audience, great job. Ken, being very patient with us back there. I'm going to run away, so see you in a couple weeks. Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.